Played that day, but sadly, of course, he's not playing today, John Barnes. That was the story of the third round of the FA Cup. We'll have the other rounds as we go on through the afternoon, building towards the kick-off at 3 o'clock. Now, as I understand it, well, I told you before, Sunderland are on their way. Their coach is down there somewhere. There's a bit of rain on our camera up in the helicopter. There they are. They're in a bit of a traffic jam. They've got a police outrider there. He will lead them past the traffic. And there's the Sunderland squad on their way here. I think that's the back of Kevin Ball's head. I'm not absolutely sure. But a lot of chatter going on, as you would expect. But I suspect that the butterflies may be starting very shortly. We'll join them again a bit later and perhaps get a word or two with them there. Now, you've seen these pictures a few times over the last week, but no apologies for showing you them again. 1973.
Hughes with the kick. And Sunderland have done what they threatened to do. Marini. Leeds are really pushing forward. Cherry, brilliant save, and Lorimer makes it one each. No. Astonishing. Stoke promised an upset, and they beat Manchester City in the 6th round. Arsenal in the semi-final, and now the cup holders in the final. And who can deny their right to the silver trophy?
Jim Montgomery, who made that marvellous save, of course, and Dennis Stewart, who also played for Sunderland on that famous day. What sort of game did you have? We know what sort of game he had.
It wasn't one of my better games.
Was it not?
Of the cup run, but at that particular time it was all hands to the wheel at one stage. Leeds did pummel us for a while.
You were under the cosh for most of the match?
No, I think looking back on the video highlights that I've got now, we played quite well. Last 20 minutes, they run out of ideas and craft, and we could have extended our lead.
Could you?
Absolutely.
Now, Jim, you're almost sick of looking at it, aren't you, I should think, this week? I don't know.
I still enjoy it, though.
Do you?
Yeah,
Bet
great.
you do. I heard something on the radio this morning, did I? I think you were on the radio talking. Your wife takes it out and has a look at it now and again.
Yeah, she tends to want to have a look at it now and again, and she, especially near the end of when Bob runs across the pitch, and I mean, that's quite emotional for my wife, like.
Yeah. I mentioned the butterflies about Sunderland on their approach here just now. Do you think that they'll be getting a little nervous at this sort of stage, these boys? I mean, there's a lot of young boys in the team, aren't there?
Yeah, but I think they're going to enjoy it. You've seen, you saw that there. I mean, they'll be enjoying the atmosphere coming through. They'll be looking at the fans, and I think when they start getting the nerves is when you see the Twin Towers, and then coming up Wembley Way. That's when you start.
There's so many fans out there, of course. Then you realise what
that's what it's all about,
the job in hand.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think it'll make quite a difference to Sunderland's chances that Barnes isn't playing, Dennis?
Well, I think over the last 24 hours, I think the odds have shifted towards Sunderland, quite honestly, with the heavy rain, torrential rain that we're having at the moment, because obviously going to even the skill level out, and with Barnes being out, as we saw in the highlights of the earlier rounds in immaculate form, and with him being out in the heavy rain, I think the odds are shifting a little bit towards Sunderland, quite honestly.
That 73 final wasn't your only one, was it?
No, I went back there in 76 for the League Cup final with Manchester City, and again with City in the replay in 81 against Spurs when Villa scored
the FA Cup final.
The FA Cup final, yes. When Villa scored the magical goal with a little bit of a mazy run from the left wing.
That was a terrific fight. Well, both matches were terrific.
Yeah, the 3-2. We lost 3-2 in the replay.
Weren't they? I'm sure a lot of the viewers like to know what you're doing these days, Jim. How do you spend your day?
Well, I'm manager sports centre up in Durham, as well as coaching the goalkeepers in Newcastle and at Darlington. I still enjoy it. It keeps you fit and keeps you involved still.
Sure. And you're in big business, Dennis, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of business promotions. It's basically all about incentive and motivation, which has been a part of my life ever since I've been playing football. And we've got a property company as well, so that keeps me
You're doing
nice
all right.
and busy.
Looking very prosperous.
Yes, I'm enjoying it.
Well, who of the Sunderland players do you think we should look out for particularly today, do you think?
I think, crucially, it'll be David Rush, because they brought McManamy on the left side of midfield.
He's the young blonde boy, he's nearly 20 years of age.
Yeah, a lot of energy, and I think he's going to have to use that energy today, because I think they'll be looking to release McManamy down the left side. Very similar to 73 when everyone said Eddie Gray down the left side for Leeds was going to give us a little bit of a tousing, and Dick Malone did a super job with Bobby Kerr's help on that day. Yeah. And I think Rush will be the backup support for the right back of Gary Hours, who's not a natural right back. I think they'll have to close him down very quickly.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Sunderland haven't got either full-back that they've had all the way through, virtually. I know that Rogan, but he played on the other side, didn't he? He switched position, and ours has come in at full-back. That seems to be a bit tricky, I would have thought.
Well, I would have found, to me, I would have thought Rogan in the centre of defence, along with Ball.
Yes.
And Hardiman on the left-hand side, full-back. That would have been my particular choice.
Right.
I think Sunderland's got to be careful not to run out of steam in the first 20-25 minutes. If Liverpool get and start knocking about in these nice little conditions where the one-touch football comes in, and they're just got to be careful not to run out of steam a bit.
Anyway, it's a wonderful day for the lads, isn't it? Because, I mean, you know, in a sense, it sort of sets you up for life, having played in the cup final in some ways, doesn't it? You remain in the public's mind.
Something they've got to remember, and I've sent a little telegram to Malcolm Crosby just saying to enjoy the game and make sure he remembers all parts of the day, because it's something very unusual.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Nice to see you both. And we'll now move back to the coach and see if we can see what's going on in the Sunderland coach right now. Now, I don't know where they are geographically, but Tony Gubber can tell us. Tony?
Well, Paul Bracewell, this is a journey you've made many times before during your time at Everton. Is this different today?
Yeah, it's raining. I think every time I'm here before. The lads are looking forward to it, good spirit in the coach. I'm just looking forward to the kick-off now.
Is there any apprehension at this stage, or are you really just anxious to get on with it?
No, I think everybody's relaxed, as you can tell, playing cards, having a joke, bit of music on as well. But I think once we get in this stage, the lads are looking forward to 3 o'clock.
I'm surprised it's Irish music. What's the significance of that?
No, we've played it in all the previous rounds before, so it's a little bit of an omen, so lads are playing it again.
And Gary Bennett sitting quietly in the corner there. You had the CD and the stereo on earlier. You don't like the Irish music, do you not?
No, it's too much for me. I just listen to reggae or soul music.
Now, you've got a family connection with the FA Cup, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. My brother was here in '87. And,
That's David?
That's right, David, and he picked a winner's medal up for Coventry.
That was Coventry against Tottenham, which really was the underdogs in a way on the day, beating the team that were expected to lift the cup. Can Sunderland do the same?
That's right, and they stayed in the same hotel as us, so hopefully that's a home-in.
You're really looking forward to it, are you?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I don't know if the camera can swing around a little bit there, but we've got Gary Hours quietly clutching. What are those little notes you've got there, Gary?
Just a few good luck cards from your little sisters, friends and family.
Are you nervous, apprehensive about the game?
No, surprisingly, I'm just looking forward to getting my boots on and getting out there.
I mean, the papers this morning all seemed to think Liverpool were going to win it. It was pretty one-sided.
We haven't been given much hope, but I think the lads are determined to go out and prove everybody wrong, you know. So,
Look, hope you have a good match.
thank you. Cheers.
They seem to think that was funny. I'm not quite sure why, but they all seem pretty relaxed, and they'll be here pretty shortly. And we've just heard that Liverpool have started their journey to Wembley too. We'll be taking a look at them in due course. Right, let's continue the story of the road to Wembley this year. And now we look back at round 4.
Having beaten Arsenal, Wrexham were rewarded with a weekend in town to play West Ham. They were greeted by a man about town who hadn't played since last season's cup final. And something of Gazza's indomitable spirit rubbed off on the unlikely lads from North Wales. After an hour, they were a goal down.
Phillips. Oh, fabulous strike! Wayne Phillips, and Wrexham have done it again. Oh, that's over the top for the youngster Lee Jones. Is he going to be the hero? He is. He scored. The man who's just come on as a substitute. 18 years of age, and it's 2-2.
But back at the racecourse ground, it proved not to be a case of horses for courses.
That's Foster, and he's there, the big man, Colin Foster.
While West Ham survived, 3 other First Division sides disappeared. Sheffield Wednesday's Trevor Francis looked over his shoulder to discover Middlesbrough coming from behind with another Paul Wilkinson goal.
And here's Wilkinson, defender slipped, and Wilkinson has scored.
Everton had the misfortune to visit Stamford Bridge during Clive Allen's short but fertile transplant to Chelsea.
In it goes, Dixon's in there for the header. Allen was there too, and that's the goal! Clive Allen, so typical and so well taken.
The threat of a sudden death duel at 12 paces haunted teams who took the field in replays this season. But at 2-1 down in the last minute of their second game with Southampton, Manchester United had more urgent problems.
Sharp. They're streaming into the penalty area. Ruddick cleared. It bounces back. Oh, Leclerc. 2-2.
In extra time, Brian Robson came with a typically forceful header that was scrambled away. But did this ball completely cross the line? Yes, claimed Robson. No, ruled the referee. And the replay, though not conclusive, supported the official's verdict. So it came to penalties in front of the Stretford end. Southampton scored. First up for Manchester United was Neil Webb.
What can you say about a miss like that?
Southampton stayed cool. They went 3-2 in front. Then it was Mickey Adams. He made it 4-2. Manchester United staring into the abyss. Enter Ryan Giggs, 18 years old and seemingly free from care.
He saved it. It's all over. Southampton are through. And Tim Flowers is quite rightly for me the hero.
The place for goals was the baseball ground. Derby lost to Aston Villa by the odd one in 7, but still scored the best of the match and probably the round.
Williams! What a goal! Paul Williams! What a fantastic goal! It was Martin Chalk's cross, and look at this for a volley. Seeley, not a chance.
Sunderland continued their unobtrusive progress away at the Manor Ground. Oxford United were among those caught in the backwash created by the death of the former Derby County chairman. They didn't know if they would still be in existence at the end of the week, never mind still in the Cup. In the long term, they've managed to keep their heads above water, but in the short term, Sunderland swamped them. John Byrne, Paul Hardiman, and there Brian Atkinson put Sunderland 3 up, and Oxford's reply came too late. Liverpool's progress wasn't so smooth. Having survived a tricky passage at Twerton Park, it was all they could do to resist a Bristol Rovers boarding party in the replay at Anfield.
That's right. It was nearly to Mehu. It's to Carl Saunders, in fact. Good volley. Oh, yes! What a start for second division Bristol Rovers. And it's Carl Saunders again. This is McManaman. Now he's opening up a little bit here. McManaman shot! Oh, didn't he open them up? Beautifully struck. And the Kop now voice their relief. McManaman rushed to his left, Saunders further over. Can he take him on the inside? He does. Still McManaman, great run. It's Saunders. And this time the finish is short. And as soon as comes off the bench, you feel that maybe the resistance and resilience of this gallant Bristol Rovers side may have been broken.
That was the story of the 4th round. Now I'm told that the Sunderland squad are almost here. They're somewhere just outside Wembley now. These shots from our helicopter, they're having a rough time up there today, I believe. There's the reserve goalkeeper on the left there. And David Rush just behind him has had a new short haircut for the day. The young 20-year-old that the boys here were talking about earlier, playing a crucial role in the match, perhaps, this afternoon. John Byrne, who scored in every round. And that's the centre-back there, Kevin Ball, on the left. So here they are, coming through now the gates of Wembley, very close, for their great day. And as I said earlier, they'll be taking the dressing room that the club had back in 1973, when they had their famous victory over 1973. And I'm told it's the dressing room that Liverpool usually prefer. And Liverpool are in the dressing room that they had on the day that Wimbledon shocked them here back in 1988. John Byrne, who's a confident fella and been a great signing for Sunderland this season. So they get a great welcome. And the coach comes right into the dressing room areas. Dressing rooms are just down the end of that tunnel on either side. And as we look at it, they'll be going through the door there, down there on the right. And then, of course, at about 2:30, they'll be coming up through that tunnel out into the roar of the crowd. And that's really when the old nerves start for the players. Wonderful day for the club and for the people from the northeast. That's Anton Rogan, who'll play at fullback. Nobody else coming out at the moment. Perhaps the card school's going terribly well, I don't know. This is probably a trick on us. He's going to play anyway, the Northern Ireland international, who's played in cup finals before for Celtic, though, Scottish cup finals. John Kay just at the top of the steps of the bus there, who unfortunately misses the game through injury. Oh, that's a beautiful piece of disorganisation at the moment. They won't come out of the bus. We'll catch them in due course, because we've got to catch a race down at Lingfield. And Armstrong. I won't name them all for you, but we'll see them all in due course. That's Paul Bracewell, though, the captain. And Davenport, of course, who played for Manchester United and Nottingham Forest in his time, play up front with John Byrne today. So they're safely ensconced in the dressing room. And Liverpool yet to arrive. Now we've got lots more people to meet as we build up towards kick-off at 3 o'clock, of course. Here's Bob Wilson now, and with him is Graham Kelly.
Graham, FA Cup final day and the European Championship finals coming to England, we've heard this week. Quite a week in all for the FA.
Yes, I mean, the decision from UEFA was a tremendous boost for the game. It provides a fillip to everybody connected with the FA and the English game, and it's really the rehabilitation of the English game after the dark days of Hazel 7 years ago. It really is excellent news.
We're only about 5 weeks away from the European Championship finals in Sweden, with England and Scotland going there. Now, what's the situation? Because there's been all sorts of talk about not many tickets, too expensive.
Yeah. Well, there's still plenty of tickets available. We've got about 2,000 tickets, 2,500 tickets still available out of our allocation of 5,000. So we really want to be selling those within the next couple of weeks. We'd like members of the England Travel Club or people to join the England Travel Club. Contact us at Lancaster Gate. Just drop a line to 16 Lancaster Gate, London. The tickets are available to members of the England Travel Club. For the 3 matches in the first phase, that's against Yugoslavia, France and Sweden, ranging from £9 to £43. They are there, so we do want people to go and get behind the team. Graham Taylor's very keen that we'll have a reasonable amount of support there.
Criticisms about it being so expensive. I mean, it's an expensive country, Sweden.
Well, that's right. I mean, it is an expensive economy, and you know, it is expensive to live there. But notwithstanding, there are some good value. There's certainly one good value package for the fans, and as I say, the tickets are there, and we want people to be there.
Little thought about the game today?
Well, I'm not going to put any money on it, Bob, but I think the conditions will make it very interesting indeed, won't they?
Thanks very much, Graham.
Thank you.
Right, and with us here is Steve Cram. Who do you support then?
A little bit undecided as yet, Des, as you can see.
The #1 Sunderland supporter, and we'll be hearing from Steve in just a moment or two. We're, less than 2 hours away from kick-off time now. And shortly we'll be breaking for the news. The gates have just opened here and the fans starting to come in. And we'll be back here with more build-up in just a few moments' time.
New for Tuesdays on BBC One, the boys are back in town again.
Melbourne Confidential, Reg Toomer here.
They're dedicated.
Yeah, it's early in the morning.
They're motivated.
Oh, you need to call the money, Reg?
They're a partnership.
Mate, if they had a degree in whinging, you'd have a doctorate.
They're the Boys from the Bush. A new series starts Tuesday at 9:30, BBC One.
Now on BBC One, the latest news headlines with Moira Stewart.
Good afternoon. In about half an hour, the Liberal Democrat leader, Paddy Ashdown, is expected to make a speech calling for a new approach from the opposition parties following the Conservatives' fourth general election victory. He'll propose that his party works more closely with Labour, but he's ruled out a formal alliance.
Paddy Ashdown isn't suggesting an electoral pact with Labour, but his strategy is based on a belief that neither of the main opposition parties is in a position to beat the Conservatives on its own. He wants them to start exploring what common ground they have, despite the risk of alienating those Liberal Democrat supporters who are at least as hostile to Labour as they are to the Tories. But senior figures in his party say some form of understanding is needed.
What I do think is important is that for all of us who have to win the argument against the Conservatives next time, that will only be achievable if the climate of opinion and the climate of ideas is more favourable to the priorities that the opposition parties sketch out.
John Smith, the likely winner of the Labour leadership, has already offered discussions on tax and benefits policy and on the subject that Mr Ashdown regards as critical, electoral reform. But some senior Liberal Democrats suspect Mr Smith and his supporters of believing that with one more heave, Labour can still win by itself.
Dentists are claiming that government contracts, which regulate the way they work, are forcing them to turn away NHS patients and treat only those who can afford to pay. Unless more money is provided, they warn there'll be a massive drop in the standard of dental care.
David Geddes has stopped treating paying adults on the NHS at his surgery in Dorset. He'll only see them privately, because he says the money the government provides for NHS treatment isn't enough. He's also worried that the inadequate funding, as he sees it, of children's NHS treatment will force him to take drastic action.
I believe that I'm going to have to ask parents, unfortunately, to pay for the children's treatment. This will be the first time that I've ever had to do this, and it cuts against the grain.
The funding of NHS treatment was only one of the issues worrying dentists at this meeting in Oxford today. They believe the government wants to cut dentists' incomes by up to 25% this year because of an overspend last year. The Department of Health says dentists' pay has increased over the years and a decision on fees for this year hasn't yet been made.
The United Nations is expected to approve a draft treaty today aimed at tackling global warming. It'll be signed next month at the Earth Summit in Brazil, which President Bush is now expected to attend. The treaty limits the emission of greenhouse gases, but it avoids legally binding targets and deadlines because of American objections. Critics say the price of American participation is too high. Riot troops and police in Thailand sealed off parts of the capital Bangkok last night to stop tens of thousands of protesters from marching on Parliament and the Royal Palace. They're campaigning for the resignation of the Prime Minister. The focus was a fast by the main opposition leader. He's now abandoned that protest, but says he'll continue the campaign. Rescue workers in Hong Kong are searching for the body of a 12-year-old British boy who was swept to his death in the worst storms to hit the colony in 25 years. Michael Bill, whose father is a Hong Kong police superintendent, was one of at least 4 people who died. Thousands have been forced to leave their homes because of flooding or the threat of landslides. It's Cup final day in England and in Scotland, where Rangers are hoping to complete the double by beating Airdrie at Hampden Park. Heavy rain at Wembley is hampering the preparations for the FA Cup final between Liverpool and 2nd Division Sunderland. The rain has been falling all morning, although it's forecast to ease before kick-off at 3 o'clock. That's the news for now. We'll be back after the Cup finals at 5:35.
A young woman met with a violent death. The child, too, probably.
We were never here.
You could have something terrible in your past.
Panic and we'll all go down.